Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Barrierwulf again. I wanted to do something a little bit different this time. I don't really have a script in front of me, more just notes. I was looking at the comments that I received on the Crucible Playbook post that I made on the fact that there's no Rumble in Destiny 2. And I wanted to share my thoughts on it after I got to look at all the comments that were talking about all the different things that are associated with Rumble not being in Destiny 2. Like it's more of a conceptual difference than simply it just not being there, and that's a big deal. Like it means a lot for what they're trying to do in Destiny 2, and I wanted to go over that a little bit. So the way I want to go forward with this, and I've heard this categorized similar to this in the past by like Cool Guy or Dado or even Mtash, is that there's two main categories of players that enjoy Destiny. And the way I want to call them are casual or baseline, that's interchangeable, versus hardcore. Now, before I go into either of them, I wanted to just say that just being part of one group or not being part of another doesn't make you any better or worse than the other one. Like that has nothing to do on the basis of this conversation. I'm just separating them for the sake of analysis. So anyway, so when I think of the first category, baseline, I say that because Destiny 2 is purported by Bungie to be streamlined. And they didn't really go into what streamline meant, but when they said it, they were telling us that they were trying to eliminate some of the things that were barring off more Guardians from enjoying the game proper, as in making the whole of the experience accessible to more people that play the game and having less things that bar entry to the largest common denominator of people. So when I say baseline, it refers to those that are favored by this new system, which is supposedly less grindy. Again, that doesn't mean good or bad, it's just simply analysis. The people that are part of this baseline group, they're more likely to look at the last video I made, the Crucible Tips for Beginners, because it's for people that are trying to understand the game more. So the second group I'm thinking of, hardcore, it speaks to those who seek to and they actively try and master game modes, mechanics, techniques, or even glitches that are in Destiny. So I mean those guys who are trying to speed run strikes or two-man Crota. Like I remember I did that a long time ago with a friend of mine back in the day, trying to Titan skate, things like that. The hardcore group is probably the group I'm speaking to now, actually, seeing as this is more of a high-level concept, thinking about the exclusion of an entire game mode from a game that we play right now in its next iteration. So what does Rumble not being in Destiny 2 mean for both of these audiences? For the hardcore audience, I think it could be a range of emotions. It could be people being like, yeah, it doesn't need to be in there, all the way down to I don't want to play Destiny 2 because I miss having my 1v1 times 6 experience and it's not going to be there. And honestly, these emotions can range from all different kinds of hardcore players because there's more than just one. It depends on what kind of hardcore player you are. You could be a PvE, like a raid strike nightfall master, and you do the nightfalls and the weekly raids every week since before Age of Triumph was a thing, and you might dabble in PvP and you'll do 6v6 for its accessibility because you're used to having 6v6 people for raids and you want to do something with your buddies. So to not exclude people, you'll end up jumping into something like Control or Clash, probably more Control because it's objective based and it gives another thing for you guys to do together instead of just finding people and killing them. Then again, you could be on the other side of things. You could be like a hardcore Iron Banner rank 15. You could be a forged ingot guy who did the entire page for the Crucible part of Age of Triumph and you wear that emblem all the time because you're proud of it. You could be a Trials of Osiris guy who has been going flawless every week, or maybe you don't go flawless every week and you really just love playing it. Like those guys, they're headhunters and they all look to PvP as like a performance enhancer and training. And they'll go from 6v6 to 3v3 to 1v1 times 6 as something to hone their skills in a different way. And they do have a preference sometimes, but that doesn't stop them from going into whatever mode that they please. And in between these two poles, there's pretty much anything in between. You can have people who live to pub stomp and they curse skill-based matchmaking, and there's the weekend warriors who they really grind out Destiny, but they can only do it on, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday afternoon before they have to go back to work on Monday through Friday. So on the other side of things, the baseline audience, if we think about how they are reacting to the lack of Rumble in Destiny 2, they're probably reacting with a general amount of apathy or just ignorance in the first place. A lot of them knew that Rumble was in the game, but they probably didn't engage in Rumble as much as the hardcore audience. To think about this and put this in perspective, the baseline audience, in my mind, constitutes about 65% to 75% of the Destiny audience, and the other 25 to 35% is the hardcore audience. So Rumble is a 1v1 times 6 game mode, and that puts you by yourself against another 5 people. It's rough in there sometimes. It can be oppressive to some when you're relying on yourself and only yourself to have any sort of success. That means you have to have your game super duper on in order to really have a chance of succeeding, and everybody doesn't want to play like that all the time, myself included. I don't play Rumble all the time, although I recognize its ability to make me a better player by helping me focus on my 1v1s and really analyze my mistakes and make myself a more learned and wise player in the long run. Not everybody wants to do that, and I totally understand. Honestly, with the power creep that's happened in Destiny 1, it's kind of become either a place to test things in private matches or to super sweat in lobbies to kind of work on your 1v1s, but you also have to work on being able to know when someone's going to have a sticky ready for you and kind of eliminate the possibility of a gunfight in the first place. So there is that. If it sounds like I'm a little salty about the nade spam, I'm a little salty, but just a smidgen. Anyway, whether or not you're feeling good or bad about Rumble not being in Destiny 2, the fact is that Rumble is not in Destiny 2. So, how can we turn that into a good thing? Or rather, what can we do with what Bungie is giving us? How can we make the best out of it? So, what are the positives of there being no Rumble in Destiny 2 and them switching everything to 4v4? I do think that there are some good things that we can derive from them making this switch. I think the main takeaway that we can have from this is that with Bungie only focusing on one team setup, it's only 4v4, they can really focus in on making 4v4 the best it possibly can be. They're going to kind of get rid of all the excuses that they could have about them not being able to make things like laser focus balance. You could think about the maps. I think that all maps, according to the fact that they're making Crucible 4v4, they're making all the maps for the Crucible that they're making, which is 4v4. So every single map that they release should feel very comfortable to more game modes than how Destiny 1 was working. So if you think about the fact that we played Midtown and Endless Vale, those two game modes, Countdown and Control, they worked really well in that space because of how they set it up. If you try and compare that to, Skirmish and Shores of Time, that could be a bunch of icebreaker nonsense and people really, 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 really camping. Or you could think about Drifter and Anomaly 6s for Control or Clash, it being a cluster of people running around trying to slide shotgun everyone. There's not really too much space to try and have a particular play style. It was constant aggression and super chaos. Hopefully with the changes that they're making, it should change the way that map balance works and make everything feel really crisp and just right. And it should be this way. I mean, I can say that about Endless Vale. I felt really comfortable playing Control and 4s there, and doing Countdown on Midtown felt really good to me. It was a larger map than Endless Vale, and it wasn't symmetrical, but it still fit the playstyle really well for me, and it didn't have that awkwardness of Destiny 1's examples that I gave a minute ago. So hopefully in the full game, it's actually going to be better because of the fact they're only making it 4v4. So another big part of the 4v4 change is that gun damage and abilities, they can be laser focused on balance for 4v4 modes. And it's a little bit difficult to explain the intricacies of what I'm trying to say, but I'm going to do my best. Actually, I kind of learned this idea from the commenters in the Crucible Playbook posts that I made earlier. And they kind of opened my eyes to the fact that Rumble in Destiny 2, the way that they are making it right now, may not be the best idea unless they balanced it totally differently in the first place. So hear me out. The fast kill times in Destiny 1 make Rumble possible. The way that guns and time to kill are balanced right now in Destiny 2, things can't reliably function the same way as they would in Destiny 1. In Destiny 1, since you had super fast kill times, it would allow you to have gunfights sometimes before a third person shows up. I mean, how many crossfires have you got, and how many times have you had a kill stolen in Rumble? And that happens in Destiny 1 with the sticks and the super fast fusions and the slide shotguns and golden guns, super reduced cooldowns as compared to Destiny 2. Anyway, the slower cooldowns and the slower TTK all around in Destiny 2 make it so even though it works in 4v4, it would make for a really unbalanced Rumble with the way that the maps are right now. Like if you considered Rumble on Endless Vale, the stage, it's not big enough for 4 people to actually have 1v1s at the time to kill that we have right now before someone else would find you and kill your person that you were shooting at. It would be an absolute cluster, kind of like what we're seeing right now in the Chaos and 6s. If you think about the cooldowns and abilities, I guess I'm talking about the final build for Destiny. I'm not going to talk about the cooldowns and abilities in the beta because some people don't like how they work. But anyway, the cooldowns and abilities, they're balanced for this 4v4 game mode. Bungie is looking at these maps and looking at the abilities that we have and being like, how many times should they be able to use this ability, this grenade, this punch, this super, containing these amounts of engagements on this stage. It's easier to do that when all of the stages are made to encompass one game type. I guess the final thing I wanted to say was, I think it's easier for Bungie to do one thing, in this case 4v4, and strive for perfection in that one thing, rather than trying at many things, as in 1v1 times 6, and 3v3, and 6v6, and I guess 4v4 as well, and end up with another Destiny 1 balancing monster, and then having that monster of PvP balance start to eat at PvP, because I love PvP about as much as I love PvE. I don't know if I said PvP or PvE, but I love them both. There's a lot of P's and V's and E's in there. Anyway, I love me some Rumble, but its exclusion, it's not even my main problem with Destiny 2 so far, but this video is already way too long. So next time I'm going to be talking about how choice is the big deal that makes me upset in Destiny 2. I'm going to go into what that means. So thanks for listening, guys. I'll talk to you in the next one.
Think they'd mind if we take their pikes?
Oh, hey guys, I'm starting a channel. You want to subscribe?